Yam Shaiva Samupasate Shivaiti Brahmeti Vedantino Bauddha Buddhaiti Pramana Padava Karteti Nayayiga Arhan Nityatha Jaina Shasanarata Karmeti Mimamsaka Soyamvo Vidadhatu Vanchita Phalam Trailokyanaatho Harihi Soyamvo Vidadhatu Vanchita Phalam Trailokyanaatho Harihi Shuddho Buddho Vimukta Sudishikaragiram Mukhyatahat Pariyabhumi Yasmajjatam Samastam Jagadidam Amrtat Vyapya Sarvam Sthidoya Yasyam Sham Shabhataraihi Suranaravanajairakshidam Sarvametad Tam Bhoomanam Mukundam Hridigadamamalam Krishnameva Prapadye Tam Bhoomanam Mukundam Hridigadamamalam Krishnameva Prapadye Madhya Hridayakashe Sadanandamayo Guru Udetu Sadatam Samyak Ajnana Timirarunaha Hari Om Tats Jaya Guru. As generally I do wherever I go, it may not necessarily be the Jnana Yajnas I conduct for particularly anxious and waiting audience. Maybe on so many other occasions, whether it is the administrative center or maybe the Lucent Technology in America or World Bank or any other place whatsoever, I always make it a point to have a few invocations of this kind, following which, closing the eyes, we all of us together chant 3 times the auspicious monosyllable Omkara. Actually, Omkara is a combination of 3 syllables, A, U and These 3 syllables combined together become a representative monosyllable. I think it represents the entire knowledge articulated by the human system. Everything is sound, consonant, vowel, collections of these words, sentences, essays, books and whatnot. All of them can be synopsized into this Omkara. Chanting this Omkara stimulates our brain. And the American cardiologists say it has also a very great biological effect on the biological heart of the body. About that we don't know, but we have always been using it as a stimulating practice for the brain and to coordinate the thinking process, the understanding process and something beyond it. So I would like to recite it in chorus by all of us who are present here. I would like your mind to expand to cover the entire universe. It is the mind where you experience everything. If you see the world is not seen outside. It is the mind that imprints the world, and the mental imprint is what you are seeing. So if you are experiencing in one way or the other, perceiving the universe, that universe is a mind universe which your mind presents to you in the form of an imprint. Can you then imagine how great, how broad, and how stupendous the mind constituent of your personality is? Let that mind imbibe that expansion, so much so that it will be able to cover the entire globe. And I would like this collective recitation also to pervade the whole universe, generating and unleashing its benedictory influence so that all can have peace, welfare, and prosperity. Are you all ready? Huh? Or will you feel shy? Okay. It is a sound which you produce. It has nothing to do, so far as I am concerned, with religion at all. It is a human sound. Even religion is a human word. Where is God there? God itself is a human word, like dog. And we have to explain every word that we utter. So here is a very special articulational austerity, if I may call it, by which we try to get linked to the whole universe. So join me. Harihi, Harihi, Harihi. Here we start. Interlock your fingers and put them on your lap. Sit comfortably erect, don't strain yourself. Close your eyes, open the mouth and the heart and join me. Very good, very good. But it can be better, should be. I greet you all in the name of knowledge, which is really the goal and the ultimate useful factor and acquisition in human life. Unfortunately, many people do not know that the human life is meant to make the best of voyage in the sphere of knowledge. This is a university, a premier and the oldest university in India. I am happy that the Human Resources Development Department thought it wise to host a lecture like this on the subject stable-mindedness, the key to performential excellence. This is a subject very active and vibrant with all sections of the society, particularly the educational sections on the one hand, and the performential, namely the administrative, the management, the industrial, the scientific, the research-oriented. With all sections, we want to have excellence in performance. So performential excellence is perhaps a watchword for everyone in this world. But unfortunately, I feel they don't know what is performance and what is performential excellence. Where is the locus and the focus of this excellence, particularly performential excellence? For that, we should understand what is meant by performance. What is meant by excellence? And another word in the caption is stable-mindedness. What is this mind? And what is meant by stable-mindedness? When does the mind become stable? Is it already stable? How can the mind be stable at all? Because we are always linked to unstable substances in the world. Nothing in this world is something like a permanent thing or a lasting phenomenon. Everything is transitory, transient, fleeting at every point of time. The body which you had a week back, you don't have the same body now. Millions and trillions of cells have been destroyed and replaced. This destruction on the one hand and replacement on the other, to a considerable degree, are taking place every day, every hour. If this be the case, do we have a constant body in us? Certainly not. The body is changing, so too the world also is changing. I will not mind saying that one day the sun will become cold. Being university people who have assembled here, a place of knowledge, a place for radiating and teaching knowledge. You will not disagree with me, but appreciate me. One day the sun will become cold. Whatever material is getting transformed into heat and light will be exhausted one day, and the sun will become cold. You and I may not be present in this world, but this is a fact which the scientific and rational mind will have to accept. Why I said this? Everything in this world is changing. Our body is changing, mind is changing, intelligence is changing. Whatever we perceive with the senses is also subject to constant change. Our mind is associated with these changeable factors. Ever since the child is born and it touches the earth, it is always having contact with the external objects. And all the objects are fleeting and changing. And these objects are imprinted by the mind. And the mind imprints are there. They are the next influence for the child to take to further perceptions and interactions. So all our life, we are only working on unstable things. Where is stable-mindedness possible? Have you ever thought about it? Unfortunately, when something like that is spoken of, people will say it is philosophical, it is spiritual. I refuse to concede this point. Mind is not a spiritual product, as you say. Stability is a word which we have coined, and we attach our own importance and meaning and message to this word. We want to have a stable personality, not a fickle personality. Something we must be having in a stable manner. We must be able to take to any kind of interactions in this world. And whatever consequences flow from the interactions, we must be able to accept them, assimilate them, and get enriched by the interactional consequences. There is no time or occasion for us to shudder at anything, to resent anything, to feel intolerant about anything. Life is meant to be lived, and we shall live our life. And the whole life is a process of outliving. We live and outlive, we live and outlive. And one day we shall outlive the whole life tenor and we will fall dead. Everything is very natural here. Why don't we open our inner eyes and see and verify matters for ourselves? Mind is the seat of all experiences for you. Life is experiential. Life is experiential. At every point of time you are experiencing something or the other. In sleep you forget everything. You are unconscious of your body, unconscious of your mind, of your intelligence, not to speak of the world. But nevertheless, when you wake up, you say, I slept and I was unconscious. Where is the time in us when we are not conscious of? Every time we are experiencing. And mind you, this experience is not external, 1 millimeter away from the body. It is internal to the mind. It is mental. Mind is not a part of the body. It is associated with the body. The mind consists of matter and energy. It is a matter-energy aggregate. Neither matter nor energy is capable of feeling, sensing, knowing, reflecting, introspecting, inquiring, finding, assessing, determining, evaluating, concluding. But all these actions or all these exercises we are doing, it is not done by the body. It is not done by the bodily organs or senses. We do it with our mind, with our intelligence. They don't fall in the category of matter or energy. So something different from matter and energy is there. The entire world is made up of matter and energy, the Panchabhutas. Earth is matter, water is matter, air is matter, fire is energy, space is perhaps beyond both or partly this and partly that. The entire world is made up of Panchabhutas. Our body is also made up of Panchabhutas. But we have something different from the Panchabhutas. That is what the mind represents, the intelligence represents. And when we speak about stable-mindedness, we are entering into the area of the mind. My dear souls, please understand this point. Are you conscious of your mind? Do you understand the measure and magnitude of the mind? Much less you know about the potential of the mind. But everything in our body depends upon the mind. If I open my eyes, the mind wills it, wishes it. If I raise my hand, it is at the instance of the mind. If I sense my hunger, it is my mind that enables me, empowers me to do so. Mind is the focus and the locus of all our activities and interactions. Therefore, the stable-mindedness becomes a very important proposition in the matter of performing well and achieving excellence. About excellence also, I have something to tell you. Excellence is not an objective outcome to greet you when a performance is completed. No, no, no. You must be able to perform excellently. That performance itself should become excellent. That means you must have the quality of excellence. You must have means who must have? Your mind must imbibe the quality of excellence. Your intelligence should understand what is meant by excellence and how to imbibe, cultivate and inculcate it, instill it into my system. Excellence is a word. Cleverly, dexterously, usefully, very beautifully, admiringly performing everything. If I place this article, I must place it in an excellent manner, not in an irregular angle, either parallel to that edge or parallel to this edge. When you dress yourself well. When you have your food, it should not be ugly to look at. You must be able to eat well, beautifully. Everything is excellent. So you must imbibe the quality of excellence in you. So that qualitative enrichment in the form of excellence, it must be there. When you are excellent, when you have the qualitative enrichment of excellence, whatever you do will be excellent. So be excellential in everything that you do, in everything that you think, in everything that you perform. Don't relate it to performance X or performance Y or performance Z. Understand that I am given to excellent performance. I want to know more and more about what is excellent, what is excellential performance. Introspect over the subject. When you spend about 50 hours with regard to any quality of the mind, if you can spend 50 mind hours, you will imbibe that quality. This imbibing is done not by the body, but by the mind. The mind is given to thinking, it is given to emotion. So using your emotional fondness, using your thinking ability, you will have to think about excellence, excellentiality, excellential. Think about it. Spend enough time and you will find you beam and radiate, you beam with and you radiate excellence. I always make a proposition. Personal stories are the prevailing influence in mankind. It is a capital sentence that I always or at least frequently utter. Personal stories are the prevailing influence, I said. What does it mean? All of us are living in this world, but before us, so many generations have lived. We are not a new generation. We don't know how many generations have already passed. And whatever we are, we don't have anything new. People say, world has changed. I question it. Think of the most ancient man. He had a body, 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 feet. Think of the most modern man. He also has the same body and the same organs. What about the world? The world consisted of Panchabhutas then. The world equally consists of Panchabhutas now. Tell me, where is the change then? Structurally, in terms of potential, in terms of inner constituents or constitution, the human personality has not changed. The constituents of the world also have not changed. So where is change? A little change and transformation here in the dress. The dress also, it will come up or it will go down, this all. What is it that we are doing? So let us think about life, interactions in a different manner. So I would like to take you to a period 5,156 years back. 5,156 years back. It is a historic situation, a historical recording. We have a lot of literature I consider India to be a great country simply because we have a beautiful literature here. Any memorial that you make, which archaeological department can excavate, you will find after hundreds and thousands of years they will perish. Whereas the literature we produce, if they have an eternal content and a relevance, the succeeding generations will preserve the literature, rewrite the literature, learn, relearn, imbibe, impart, and perpetuate it. We have got such a splendid literature. The first in the rank will be the Vedas, the Upanishads. We don't know when they were written, prehistoric. Prehistoric. What is the period which history covers? Something like 500 or 600 years BC, that's all. But our Vedas belong to a prehistoric period. I don't say anything about it now. We have two historical records called Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana was written by sage Valmiki as a biography to start with. Are you with me? Are you with me? Huh? Valmiki started writing Ramayana about the prince and the king of Ayodhya. And when he started writing, Sri Rama had not grown. Narada Maharshi told him, in answer to Valmiki's inquiry, is there anybody living now in this world who is truthful, who is honest, who is valorous, who is courageous, who is kind-hearted, who is sacrificing, who is noble, and who can be made an ideal? Narada had no doubt at all. Valmiki said, don't say somebody had lived. You are traveling anywhere and everywhere unhindered, so you must have come across a number of people. Have you met anybody? Do you know anybody living now? Narada said, yes. The first son of Dasharatha, who is very young, who is still growing. My dear souls, I would like you to be proud of India. Our country has always produced great, glorious, excellent people in all walks of life. All walks of life. I give a memorial talk in Delhi in Teen Murti Bhavan. One year I was speaking about restoring the glories of India. Every time I talk spiritual and philosophical subjects. One year I decided I will talk only about the scientific and objective greatness of India. You know, I was referring to mathematics, physics and chemistry, and I was explaining to the people, generally that lecture is attended to by 3 or 4 Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, a number of advocates and the others. I was telling them, the speed of light, 0 as a contribution to mathematics, the making of steel, so many other things. I took quotations from different places and told them these are the greatness of our country. Our country has always been great and we have a wonderful, miraculous, splendid intelligence. This we should understand. And it is such an intelligence that has written Ramayana. Valmiki, when he started writing, Narada told him, yes, there is somebody. Yes, there is somebody. So we never lacked good and great people at all. There is somebody, he said. And whatever he knew, Narada knew, he spoke to him. So he started writing. So it was a biography. He started collecting all the information. He was somewhere in Tamasa river bank and Ayodhya was not very far away. So Valmiki Maharshi had his own disciples and others to come and report matters that were taking place in Ayodhya palace. As he advanced in writing, Rama had grown and he had abandoned his pregnant Sita. And Rama said to Lakshmana, abandon her at the gate of Valmiki Maharshi. Because when a king abandons the wife, no less a person than a sage will be able to give support and dependence. Nobody else will be able to take. He knew it very well. So Valmiki, having seen Sita, the pregnant Sita, he said, my dear daughter, I neither blame your husband nor you. I assure you that all the care and concern will be given to you and your delivery will be safe. I will arrange my household or disciples to look after you. From that moment onwards, the biography became autobiography. I would like you to understand this. Ramayana is not a religious book at all. At all. There is no religion there. It was a historical rendering of Sri Rama's life, Sri Rama's growth, Sri Rama's excellences. Sri Rama's growth, Sri Rama's life, Sri Rama's exploits and excellences. Valmiki says very faithfully, I am writing what I see. Generally, history is written centuries after the events take place. They go into the archives, records, etc., collect information from here and there and render. So I call it a concurrent history written by Valmiki. When we come to Mahabharata, it is even more so. Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata. And he was writing about 6 generations beginning from himself. 6 generations. First is Vyasadeva, then Dhritarashtra and Pandu, Arjuna, etc., Abhimanyu, Parikshit, and Janamejaya. These are the 6 generations he has recorded, and he was a part of whatever he has written. Now you tell me, can you doubt it? Should you not value them? This is why I say personal stories are the prevailing influence in mankind. They tell you that these people were your forefathers, they lived in this manner, they met life in this way. This was the manner in which they met and dealt with their discomfitures, trials, tribulations, challenges, hazards, misfortunes, dangers, calamities. Everything was met by them. And they came out gloriously, successfully, admirably, for many others to hear about, to sing the glories of and imbibe. These two books, they are not kept in the reading rooms and libraries. They are not propagated by always the universities. Because of the fondness in the minds of the people and the affinity they have for whatever they have written, they learned it themselves. They started explaining it. They started interpreting it. And like that, from generation to generation has taken place. Mahabharata took place 5,156 years back, I said. Swamiji, how do you say so? I have got valid evidence for it. Would you like to hear? Huh? Do you know the mathematician called Aryabhatta? Have you heard? And he was born in 476 AD. He has written a letter, he has written a shloka, which I shall read so that you will understand it. Shashtyabdanam shashtiriyada Vedidas trayascha yugapadaha Tridhiga vimshatir abdaha Tadeha mama janmanodidaha. He has written this shloka indicating that now I am 23 years old. And 60 into 60, 3,600 years have passed in Kali Yuga. He was 23 years old. 3,600 years have passed in Kali Yuga. Now what is the situation now? 2,000? 2019. When you add these two things, you will find 5,156 years. This is the period in which Mahabharata was written. And this Mahabharata is an event that took place in Kurukshetra battlefield just before the commencement of the war. 2 instances took place in Kurukshetra before the war and after the war. One was the protracted advice given by Krishna to Arjuna, the war dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. Another is the post-war dialogue between Bhishma, the grandfather, and the grandson, the Yudhishthira, where Vishnu Sahasranama was also taught to him. Just imagine, our people have preserved these two treasures up to now. Bhagavad Gita is the name given to this warfield dialogue. Bhagavad Gita. You know how it happened? The entire Bhagavad Gita is in response to the inquiry which the blind Dhritarashtra makes before Sanjaya. Both the people assembled in the battlefield with wall readiness. The Abhijnana Patra identification marks were given. A charter was written with regard to how to conduct this war. Both parties signed them and everything was ready. Then the war cries were raised. Bhishma was the first person to raise the war cry. And then Krishna responded to it. So the entire war cries were sounded and discharge of arrows alone was to take place. At that point of time, Arjuna felt that I should examine both the armies and take my position and formulate my strategy for war. So he gave a tall order, lifting his Gandiva up, drive my chariot, Krishna, and stop it in front of the two armies in between, so that I may be able to examine them. Krishna did not speak a word. He simply drove the chariot and stopped it in front of Bhishmadrona Pramukhataha Sarvesham cha Mahikshidam Uvacha Partha Pashyaidan Samavedan Kurunidhi. In front of Bhishma, the grandfather, Drona, the teacher, and the respectable elders. Whatever you think, perhaps God thinks more than that in your favor. This is what happened for Arjuna. Arjuna wanted to examine the war in a secular and a warm fighter manner. Now Krishna stationed the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona and then asked him, examine who are assembled here. Do you have sufficient stable-mindedness, sufficient inner depth, composure, stability, placidity, resolve to fight this war? Look, one is your grandfather, another is your teacher, from whom you have imbibed all the skill of archery. Now you are to employ it against those people. Do you have sufficient strength, purpose and resolution in you? Perhaps this also Krishna meant. Arjuna looked at the army, found not only Bhishma, Drona and the others, on both fronts his own relatives and friends have assembled. He had fought a number of wars, but not with non-enemies. But this is the first time. So he completely crumbled and started crying. He was unable to stand. The body was trembling. The mouth was going dry. The intelligence said it was a sinful war. Don't fight. The Gandiva slipped from his hand, the bow. Unable to stand, he sat saying that, I will not fight. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? What lack of stability can drive a person to? And what is meant by stable-mindedness? Here is Arjuna, a heroic, illustrious fighter, who had fought a number of wars and won all of them, and who had come to the battlefield with additional special preparations like Gandiva and Pashupadastra. With all these, right at the point of time where he was to fight, he miserably crumbled. The question is, I would like you to think, what will you do? Unless you put yourself in that position, these stories will not have, these historical accounts will not have any meaning and purpose. This is why I said, prevailing stories, personal stories are the prevailing influence. Unless you are told that this has happened with reference to this person, this is what occurred, this is the way he thought, you will not be able to formulate your thought process and arrive at whatever you want. You know what Krishna said? He had no qualms at all. The moment Arjuna said a lot and said, I will not fight, giving a number of reasons for it, he said, Klaibyam asmagamaf partha naidhatvai upapadyate kshudram hridayadaurbalyam tyaktvottishta barandava. This is not heroism. This is not sympathy. This is unmanliness, imbecility, weakness of your heart, narrowness of outlook. not being able to think as you should as a noted fighter. This is a battlefield. Speak the language of battle. Everyone has come here to fight and kill the enemy or get killed by the enemy. Ask everyone. Nobody wants to return alive from this war unless he wins the war. In such a situation, what is the sympathy that you are evoking or invoking? This is not correct. This is unmanliness. Get up, leaving everything. Suddenly the tears stopped. What did I say? What did I say? Suddenly the tears stopped. Just imagine the startling effect of a rational instruction. Our mind is an emotional center. As an emotional center is always unstable, it can create wrong and right emotions in and out of place anytime. Unless the intelligence given to reason and rationality is able to harness the mind properly, the mind will be a disaster. Please understand it. The only influence that can work in the mind is that of the intelligence. So, Krishna activated the intelligence of Arjuna, and suddenly the tears stopped, and Arjuna became an inquirer. You know, this happened just before the discharge of arrows. The war cries had already been raised just before the discharge of arrows. Arjuna understood his position. Especially Krishna was a trusted person. He always stood by his side for doing anything and everything. So he was very happy. So he immediately understood what Krishna said was right and his position was wrong. So he started raising valid questions. No more he spoke about sympathy and concern for the others, but he had a valid difficulty. That difficulty he couches beautifully in the next statement he makes. Katham bhishmamaham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pradiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. Krishna, what have you done? You have stationed the chariot right in front of Bhishma, my grandfather, Drona, my teacher. Both of them are worshipable for me. The moment I see them, I should fall at their feet and worship them, seek blessings. Such people, you want me to discharge piercing arrows at? How can I have the courage, the composure to do it? I agree that I have to fight. I have understood your message. But my question is, how? Katham bhishmamaham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. I am in a crisis now. Just see. Follow the talk very well. I am in a crisis now. What is that crisis? Karpanya dosho bhagatasvabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha cheda yachrayasyan nishchidam bruhidan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. This is my crisis. I am suffering from narrowness of outlook. I am altogether confused. I am not able to think well. So I would like you to guide me and take me to everlasting goodness. I don't want the fleeting things of the world, nor the promise of heaven. I am not interested. I am confused now. I am burning with grief. My whole senses and the body are being burnt. Please try to cool my body. Don't tell me somehow you fight. If you win the war, you get back your kingdom. If you lose it, you go to heaven. Don't tickle me with these promises. They are things or outcomes to take place. I don't have any strength now. Do you have anything to offer strength, stability, poise, composure and resolve? Then you open your mouth, otherwise not. This is the way Arjuna spoke. Krishna smiled and started advising him. Now Krishna's instruction is an ever-relevant instruction. It is all for stability of mind, stable-mindedness. Arjuna evidently expresses instability. He does not have stability. He admits it. Now the same Arjuna will have to be imbued with stability. Was Krishna able to do so? Yes. How much time did he take? 2.5 hours. At the end of it, Arjuna says, yes, I have heard you well. I have understood everything. Not one war, but a score of Mahabharata wars I shall fight if necessary, he said. This was the startling transformation Krishna was able to bring about in Arjuna's mind. Just imagine, you also have such a body, such a mind, such an intelligence, such an ego. If this instruction is properly heard and understood, assimilated properly, you will become a much greater Arjuna than Arjuna himself was. Now, what did Krishna do? Krishna initiates Arjuna into a beautiful rational introspection. Mark my words. Krishna initiates Arjuna into a beautiful, effective, sublime, rational introspection. And the first sloka he says is, Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajna Vadamsha Bhashase Gatasoon Agatasumsha Nanushocanti Pandita. Arjuna, you spoke to me a lot, quoting and citing from Puranas and all that, as if you are a very great scholarly man. I heard all of you. But do you know all of it is gibber, nonsense? Any scholarly man or a wise man will not die either over the dead or over the living. Are you with me? Huh?
Will not grieve. Will not grieve.
Huh?
Will not grieve over the dead or the living.
The wise people will not grieve either over the dead or over the living. Suppose you are grieving over the dead people. Oh, you have gone. What are the living people going to do? Huh? You have gone and I am going. In this world, there are only two categories of people. People who have died and people who are living. You know how many people are living? 700 crores. And how many have died? 10,000 crores. So which number is more? Tell me, what are you going to do in the end? No answer. What will you do in the end of your life? See, you don't have either openness or courage to say, I will die. By saying I will die, you are not going to die. Suppose you say fire, fire, fire. Will your tongue get burnt? So I will also die. So many people have died. When an old man continues to live, do you like it? Huh? If people are not dying, there will be no place for even ants for crawling upon this earth. The world can host only maximum 800 crores of people. Food as well as air will be there only for them, not more. So, ashocyananvashocastvam. The wise people look at life and death together as a composite factor, not separating one from the other. Gatasoon agatasumsya. One set of people from whom life forces have departed, another sense from whom life forces have not departed are going to depart. So we are observing birthday. I always feel, is it a birthday or a birth distancing and a death nearing day? Every day you are nearer death and you are away from birth. And foolishly we call it a birthday. Birthday. When will the birthday ever come? Certainly not. So we seem to be foolish at heart. Let us accept this fact. Let us remove this foolishness and delusion from our mind. Hinduism, if you look at it in close quarters, it is nothing but rationality, systematic reasoning, bringing forth the cause and effect and their relationship. This is Hinduism right from the beginning. It's a rational treatise. Gita is also so. Now, what is the special vision of the Panditas? Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. The first statement Sri Krishna makes and reveals, in which he passes to Arjuna the real identity of a human. Mark my words. Every one of you is living in this world. But I wonder whether you have an identity of your own. In so many quarters, people are discussing identity crisis, identity crisis. What is this identity crisis? You will continue to have this crisis unless you have a spiritual introspection into your own mind, in your own experiences. So he says, Natvevaham jadunasam. Arjuna, you think that I, Krishna, was born of Devagi, and before that Krishna was not there. What I have to tell you is, there was no time when I was not. How many times shall I repeat it? There was no time when I was not. There was no time when you were not. There was no time when Bhishma, Drona and the others were not. As they are now, they were. Suppose they were not existing earlier. Are you following me? If they were not existing earlier, could they come into existence from non-existence? All of you are seated in this hall. How did you come and sit? Because you were earlier somewhere. Not that you, from nowhere you came. Unless we were earlier, we cannot be now. So there was no time when I was not, you were not, Bhishma and Drona were not. Similarly, there is not going to be a time when any one of us is not going to be. As we are now, we were. As we are now, we shall be. We are existing. Existence can never become non-existence. It can never become extinct at any point of time. To be means to exist, and to exist means to exist forever. Existence cannot change its nature. To exist means to exist in whatever form it may be. So understand that every one of us is eternal, imperishable, indestructible, everlasting. We are never going to be non-existent at any point of time. That is why we started saying I as a child. Even at the age of 80 and 90, you still continue to say I. Everything else has changed. The teeth have fallen. The memory is lost. Even then you say I have no memory. I is the only factor which is changeless in the whole universe, either as an object or as an experience. This I indicates existence. It does not know of non-existence at all. The Panditas, the wise people, are those who are exposed very well to this I. What is this I we are referring to? In Sanskrit we say aham pratyaya gojaraha. What is that which you denote by the term I as a pratyaya, as an idea? Whatever the idea I denote, that is the supreme truth, the self. That knows no destruction at all. So my dear Arjuna, cast aside from your mind any idea of death and destruction with regard to this war. So many wars were fought, will be fought. As long as warring tendencies are there, people will express these tendencies, and there will be certainly people dying as a result of the war. Like many other tendencies, the Kshatriya tendency is also part of human nature. Do we not weigh a cricket ball, football, and so many other items? In the same manner, they also play as if it's a fight. India had more than 600 kingdoms at the time we got independence, more than 600 kingdoms. Every kingdom king, small king, wanted to become an emperor by defeating the neighboring kingdoms. So there used to be regular wars here. So war was not something unknown to us. It was sufficiently within our blood chemistry, our mind chemistry also. It was there. So let us not be afraid of. This war is taking place only in the bodily level. It may be having some impact in the mind, intelligence and ego level. But beyond that, in the I level, in the self level, in the existence level, this war cannot touch, cannot have any impact. Not only war, any activity whatsoever. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra namuhyadi. What do you think of death? Death is only leaving the body. There are so many transitions right from the birth. Birth itself is a transition from the mother's womb to the outside world. And after having been born, we were a little child, a baby, then a boy or a girl, then an adult, then we became older, and finally we died. It is only the last visible transformation in our body, in our embodied life. It is not an extinction at all. So, my dear Arjuna, never think of death as extinction or disappearance or destruction. It is only a transition. Arjuna accepted. He accepted that existence can never become non-existent. The I denotes this existence. He also accepted that death is a transition. Then what is left aside? What is left aside is life, the interactional life. Our life is experiential. As it is experiential, it is also interactional. Whenever you say interaction, for any interaction to be, there should be two factors. So in the life interaction or interactional life, what are the two factors involved? One is the living individual himself. The living individual is the one person. He interacts with the rest of the world, including his own body. His body is a part of the world. I look at my hand. I take exercises with my bodily parts. So it's an interaction I do with my body. I interact with the world objects also. But in all these interactions, the individual remains the same. There is no change whatsoever at all. The individual remains same. Only the objects, persons, places and events go on changing. So, in this interactional life, a beautiful formula and analysis Krishna makes. This is why I say personal stories are the prevailing influence. I have depicted Arjuna, the great, valorous, heroic fighter, who came to the battlefield of Kurukshetra after 13 years of preparation with additional reinforcements for him and miserably crumbling. After listening to Krishna's words, he became an inquirer. And as an inquirer, he raised questions and Krishna is answering. So the grief has disappeared and the seeking has dawned in him. A new yearning has dawned. What is that? It is for knowledge, it is for stability, to stabilize his mind. And Krishna analyzes the whole life in one particular sloka. Matra sparshastu kauddeya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama payino anityaha tanti dikshasva bharata. How will your mind become stable? When you understand life, when you understand interactions, the interactional consequences, what is their nature, how to withstand them. When you know it, you are stable wherever you are, whatever you do, whatever you perform. I perform with my body, with my senses, with my mind, with my intelligence. If I inwardly become stable, whatever I perform will be stable and it will produce the best of outcome. Efficiency will start growing. Now the mind is fickle. Now the mind is weak. It is oscillating. It is always desultory, shaken, tormented, suffering. All these things will disappear and stability will grace the mind. This stability is brought out of a rational introspection. The introspectional benefits will have to be infused into the mind. Then the mind becomes stable. So listen to this. Matra sparshaha. Life is an interaction between the senses in our body and the objects of the world. Our senses are 5 in number. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. These are the 5 doors through which objects apparently enter into our body, enter into our mind at all to form imprints. So we have only 5 senses. These senses shape, decipher, shape and formulate the world. Sound is not produced by an object. Sound is produced by your ear. Color and shape are produced by the eyes. Don't think that the objects produce them. Certainly not. Our eyes. Suppose we had different types of eyes. Whatever we see would have become different. The 5 are the sensory openings through which we have sensory perceptions. So the world may be infinitely plural and various. But so far as we are concerned, the entire plurality of the world is reduced into 5 in the form of Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa and Gandha. Our senses make them so. Whenever there is a contact between the senses and the objects, he says, instantly Sukha or Dukkha are produced in the mind. What is Sukha? A feeling of happiness, comfort and agreeability. And what is Dukkha? The opposite of it. So either we have Sukha or we have Dukkha whenever there is an interaction between the senses and the objects. And for the interactions, do you have to particularly work for? Certainly not. If you have eyes and you open, you will see. If you have ears, you will hear sounds. If you place something on your tongue, there will be a taste. If there is a smell, the nose will smell. If something touches the body, the skin will know. So interactions cannot be shut at all. They will naturally take place. As they take place, they will also bring about either Sukha or Dukkha. So for Sukha and Dukkha, do you have to strive? Huh? Did you hear me? See, Sukha Dukkhas are the natural, inevitable outcome of interactions between the senses and the objects. If they are inevitable outcomes of the sense-object interactions and senses interact with the objects in this world during our life throughout the wakefulness, then Sukha Dukkhas are inevitable. So should you strive for Sukha? And should you strive for eliminating Dukkha? One after the other will start coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. They come only to go. They go only to come. Their nature is to come and go, come and go. You don't come and you don't go. You come once and you go only once. So allow them to come and go. You have come. I don't relish you so much because you will go. And you have gone, still you will be coming. So remain stable by understanding the transitory nature of both, transient nature of both, fleeting nature of both. Not only that, my dear souls, if you understand them a little more, they are alternates, I said. One will go, the other will come. So when Sukha disappears, Dukkha is definite. And Dukkha disappears, Sukha is definite. So you tell me, what brings Sukha? I want an answer from the enlightened audience of this university. What brings Sukha? Dukkha brings Sukha. And what brings Dukkha? Sukha. So is Sukha your friend? Whenever Sukha takes place, it will bring you and push you to Dukkha. So is it a friend? Is it welcome? See, every Sukha comes after Dukkha and it goes towards Dukkha. So every Sukha is betwixt, in between two Dukkhas. It is just like a man to be hanged, given a full sumptuous meal. Will he relish it? Huh? A man to be hanged, given a sumptuous meal, will he relish it? Similarly, the Sukha that is going to push you to Dukkha, will you enjoy it? If you are an intelligent man, you cannot. So this is what Krishna says. Whatever you may be educated, you may be ignorant, you may be moneyed, you may have the maximum of gold with you. Whatever it may be, life is interactional between the senses and the objects, and they bring Sukha or Dukkha. So what brings Sukha is previous Dukkha, and Sukha drives you to Dukkha. So it is not particularly desirable, and Dukkha is not undesirable. So the preference to Sukha and prejudice to Dukkha, these two are a delusion in our mind. So cast aside this delusion and develop an evenness towards both. Whether you want them or when you want them or do not want them, they will occur. So your wanting or not wanting, your approving or not approving has no consequence at all. It is just like the fire will blaze, the ice will be cold, milk will be white, that's all. So understand it, tan tidikshasva bharata. Understanding their transient nature, you forbear them. This forbearance, if you cultivate, he says, Yam hinavyathayan dyede purusham purusharashabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrdatvaya kalpade. He who is able to forbear them, take to them with an evenness of mind. I have no preference for sukha. I also have no prejudice towards dukkha. When sukha dukkha's come, I always will remain poised. Think of your mind like this. A sukha wave came and it subsided. Then a dukkha wave came. So in between sukha and dukkha, there is a no sukha, no dukkha, neuter, is it not? Yes or no? If there is a neuter there, you try to think about it. It is from that neuter the sukha arises, the dukkha also arises. The source of both is the same. With your enlightenment, with your discretion, with your discrimination, with your perceptional excellence, not performential excellence, perceptional excellence, you try to locate it, understand it, and remain stable. Sukhas and dukkhas are transitory, but this neutral factor is not transitory at all. That is the source and terminus of sukha dukkhas every time. I can speak a little more about it, but I don't do it now. When you are able to have your position, this stable-mindedness will come when you analyze your mind. When you analyze the mental imprints called sukha dukkhas and understand that both sukha and dukkha arise from the same source, subside in the same source. Other than that source, neutral source, impartial source, that sublime and sovereign source, sukha and dukkha have nothing in the way of an origin or a cause. This knowledge, it is so great, so profound, so magnificent, so sublime, so majestic, that you will find the sukha dukkhas will not be able to shatter you anymore. You will write an examination unconcerned about passing. The people who come to me, students, etc., I always say, simply write. Don't worry about whether you pass or fail. Your idea is you have gone there to acquire knowledge. Study the subject as a subject of knowledge and learn the subject very well. Go there, read the question paper. If you understand it well, start. Otherwise, read the question paper a second time, if necessary a third time. By the time the clarity will come, preferences also will dawn, and you start writing. Don't worry. Now we are obsessed by the idea of passing, so much so that we are not able to write. See, the performance should become good. If the performance has to become good, your mind should be stable. It should not be shaken. So he says, Yam yathayan dyede. These two sukha dukkhas which come and go, if anyone is not shaken by them, tormented by them, dislodged by them, unsettled by them, when we are not unsettled by them, that person, how samadukha sukham dhiram, he becomes courageous, he becomes persevering, he becomes perceptive, he becomes constantly striving. That man will be able to strive well in an unconditional manner, unaffected manner. This is a quality which enriches you to such an extent that your mind will not be tossed anymore by any kind of a development. I think the stability that you get will be so much. This is subjective, inner stability, one with your inner personality. With that, anywhere and everywhere you can go and start performing in any manner. Many people may fail in a subject. You will say, so many people have failed. That is why I must attempt and succeed. I am not going to run away. I will do it. If many are not able to do it, I shall do it. That kind of a confidence will grace you. This confidence is very important, and it will come from an understanding of your own inner personality, the experiential and interactional nature of your life. Understanding particularly that sukhas and dukkhas are the only outcome in this world. Whether you marry, whether you get children, whether you have the right employment, whether you have your degrees comfortably, whatever you do, sukha and dukkha are the only outcome. If you do nothing, then also you will have sukha dukkhas. By doing, you get no more. By not doing, you get no less. Am I clear? Am I telling you something meaningless or meaningful? Arey, you cannot increase your sukha dukkhas. You cannot decrease them also. Then what you can possibly do is to become stable towards them. Sukha dukkhas, my friends. Nobody is an enemy. Both are my friends. I will become harmonious with them, friendly with them, stable with them. That stability, stable-mindedness, I think this is the key for performential excellence. You know, I have been a moving university for the past 62 odd years in my life. I have been moving in India and abroad. I was also a professional. After getting exposed to this, getting initiated by my guru and doing sadhana and reading scriptures like this, I felt I can no more remain a professional. I am no more interested in any income. I am no more interested in the concerns of the family members also. But luckily my family members all were always encouraging us. We had no problem. It's a very good story to remember. So, left everything. And I always describe, I was greeted by the streets of India, graced by providence everywhere. I was greeted by the streets of India and graced by providence everywhere. And this is the 63rd year of my meandering life. Wherever I go, I speak. I am taken to universities and so many other educational centers. I say, all of you are paid. You are paid. You want money and salary and remuneration. That is why you teach. We are paid by none, nominated by none, appointed by none, selected by none. We force ourselves upon others. And luckily and fortunately, many are yearning to listen to us. You know what is the reason? It is this. And I believe we have been doing very well. I have at least done two persons work in my life, I always say. I go to bed by about 12:30, 1 or 1:30. I get up about 5:30 in the morning. I only do two items of work. Either I speak to the people who come to me or I do my work in my computer. I write. And this is the 63rd year of my life. Mind you, we are appointed by none. I have been disseminating this wonderful knowledge. After acquiring it and gaining it, I felt no more is my place and worth in the professional front. This knowledge is so great. It is so benedictory, blissful, that it should be tom-domed to the listening of anybody and everybody possible. What is my capital? My tongue is my capital. Tongue is the only capital I have. That is what I am investing everywhere. I am more a thinker than a reader. Reading is very poor. I generally like to read Sanskrit slokas, not other things. Why I am telling you this? Not to tell you anything about me. I am telling you this because this stable-mindedness, it is such an enrichment for the human being that only in the hands of this enrichment you will have performential excellence. Any job that is given to you, you will do well because you belong to the category of excellence. You know the secret of performance. When the constrictions and the emotional turbulence of the mind are removed, redressed, then the mind becomes free. In spite of a 6-inch mind, you can work with a 6-kilometer mind. Your wealth becomes knowledge. Your treasure becomes the inner treasure. Your self becomes the treasure. And who is there to steal it or take it away? So your excellence is before the performance. And you perform excellently so that the outcome shall necessarily be excellent. You don't have to be obsessed with the idea of excellent outcome, excellent outcome, excellent outcome. Is the outcome all right? Is the outcome all right? No. Keep in a vessel water over the gas stove and burn the stove. The water will get boiled. Why should you be looking at it and do any japa or tapas for that? Everything in this world will get worked out. Everything will fall into harmony. Provided you are harmonious, you are stable, and you have the stable-mindedness. Now this idea repeatedly Krishna emphasizes throughout this dialogue. So I would like to conclude saying that Bhagavad Gita is not a religious gospel at all. It is a war dialogue recorded by Vedavyasa Maharshi as a concurrent history produced by him. The events that took place, himself being a part of the whole events, he was only a narrator. Arjuna, having come to fight, along with so many others, 4.5 million warriors, was unable to fight because of a mento-intellectual crisis. This crisis was resolved by Krishna. He took back his weapon and then lifted the Gandiva. The entire armies, both armies again start blowing the conches and the war continued. So it is an incident, 2.5 hour incident that took place in between the war events. So how dare you call it a religious scripture? It is not religious at all. It is an administrative treatise, an administrative manual, a management manual, where the engineering of handling the mind of man, the science and technology of cultivating, installing ample measure of stability, stable-mindedness is discussed throughout. No other subject is discussed in Bhagavad Gita. Ultimately, Krishna asked, Arjuna, did you hear me well? Could you focus your attention on my words? He said, by your grace, I have listened to you well. I have understood. I have got back my memory. I have got back my stability. Here I take my Gandiva again to fight any extent of war, not one, a dozen or a score of them. Thank you, he said. What more do you want? All your questions about stability and stable-mindedness and performential excellence are completely treated by this 700-verse Bhagavad Gita. The original Mahabharatam text contains 1,25,000 Sanskrit verses spread over 2,000 odd chapters. From there, Bhagavad Gita is only 18 chapters and 700 verses. One copy of this Gita you keep, try to read them. Any time you are confronted, open the book, anywhere, see, close your eyes and open the book, and you start reading from the right page. By the time you read 2 or 3 pages, you will get a solution for your problem and you will be a different man. But you must have the book and you should read. I have already written on the essential concepts of Bhagavad Gita in 6 volumes. But I am writing an additional pocket book in which the Sanskrit verse will be there, a transliteration will be there, a translation will be there. But I feel a mere translation will not be able to enable the reader to think about it. So I am writing a 150-worded note. I have come up to the 15th chapter. 3 more chapters are to be written. After that, it will be published in a very good volume, beautiful, very, very attractive and pleasing, sublime volume. My idea is to take this Bhagavad Gita to at least 25 countries of the world. Somebody as a spiritual ambassador should go and meet the head of the state of at least 25 countries and explain to them that Bhagavad Gita is not a religious gospel. It is a treatise on character, behavior and interaction, especially an interactional science and technology. It deals with mind engineering. Every one of you will be benefited in your public administration, especially to meet the terrorist widespread problem of the world. Keep a copy of this Bhagavad Gita. We have preserved it as a historical rendering. This is the greatness of India. More than 5,000 years have passed. Not a syllable of Bhagavad Gita we have changed. Not only Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, nothing we have changed. We have preserved them. That shows the integrity, cohesion, greatness, and inner potential and cultural elegance of our country. How much we can master things. So we would like you to have a copy of this Gita and be benefited. We have conducted already 2 global Bhagavad Gita conventions in the United States. The 3rd convention is being planned for this September or October in Bay Area, that is in California, where we are expecting about 2,000 people to participate. Last convention, it was more than 1,000 people, and there is a very great response. Similarly, we would like to have a convention in India also, where so many international people will be invited, and we want to gift this Bhagavad Gita to the entire world. I thought coming to BHU and talking to a set of people on this, in this subject, this is a place where so many people have spoken. On Bhagavad Gita also they have spoken. So this is a very great university. I don't know whether all the people associated with the university understand the greatness and impact of this. We had Nalanda University, Takshashila University, etc., where the teacher-student ratio was very amazing. I don't know what is the ratio here in BHU. We had almost 1/5 or 1/6 of the teachers in Nalanda. So after that, in the changing scenario, the entire academic atmosphere got changed into a modern thought process. I think in that thought process, our people were able to pick up the trend and establish this university. Pandit Malaviyaji, I think he had done something very good, because we cannot lag behind in the changing times. We have to be running with the times. So this university has got great significance and relevance. And in the same manner, the university also should come up and be in tune with the calls and needs of the time. I think BHU should not lag behind. I don't know much about this university. First time I am coming, I have heard about it. Similarly, I have a great regard for Varanasi. I want to understand the varied importance of Varanasi. It is not as a city, merely as a religious center, but it has got very deep roots, going beyond even the mind, intelligence and ego. Somebody was telling me this is a city which is embracing what? Widows, dogs, sannyasins and cows. See, I am very much impressed. I came here 57 years back. At that time, the Banaras cows, seeing them, I was so happy. Everyone was very fat and healthy. And the cows will not move. We should move. They are very stable-minded they are. You know, today when we were coming, I saw a cow extending the nose, maybe 3 inches away from our car. Can a man do it? But she does it. This is the greatness of Varanasi according to me. You have no fear, very comfortable. Dogs also come here. And many widows are hosted here. And sadhus also. Yes. What a great place is this. People love to die in Varanasi. You cannot be unmindful of these factors. There is a great cultural depth here. It should be exposed. Written a book in this manner. So the other day I wanted to get information, but I was not successful. People are saying, Banaras University is there. Very superficial information. But there are many things running as the backbone and veins of Varanasi. I would like some inputs in this matter. If nobody else writes, I will write myself. But I am interested. Okay. Shall I conclude the session, or do you have any questions to ask?
presentation and your talk was very wonderful and very knowledgeable itself. The things I want to say, how one can have the stable mind?
How one?
How one can gain the stable mind? How one can acquire this stability of the mind? I mean, what is the procedure? What is the, in a very simple language, just like in a not a religious day or something like Mahabharata or something, but as individual persons, a very individual person, how one can acquire those type of stability of these type of mind? Because stable mind is everything. We all understand this. But how one can, what is the procedure to acquire this? And how one in a simple day-to-day life, just like us, we are not very much religious, we are not very much something yoga type of people. So how the simple people, which is just doing their life day by day, how they can acquire or how they can try to acquire this?
Very good. This is the one question I always like people to take up and pursue themselves. See, I made one or two important statements. What is that? Our body is a matter-energy aggregate. Mind is not a part of the body, but mind is associated with the body. The entire body is sensed and employed by the mind. All experiences belong to the mind and are in the mind level. I see all of you. Where do I see? Not 1 millimeter away from the eyelids, not even in the eye. It's always the mind taking an imprint of all of you, and that mental imprint is what I experience. I never experience an object. The object is converted into an imprint by the mind in itself, and that mental imprint is what the mind itself experiences. So the mind is the sole focus and locus of our life. Please understand this once and for all and be governed by it. Be respectful to the mind. Try to understand the potential, magnitude and measure of the mind. Now, in order to handle the mind, you have to get into the mind. Without getting into the mind, you cannot handle. Now, how to get into the mind arena, as to say? The mind is given to thoughts. So you take an optional thought. What is meant by an optional thought? Thoughts generally come and parade the mind without asking us. So it has to give you a memory of everything that has taken place. 10 items will come to your mind, and the mind itself tells you that this is the way you have to prioritize them. So mind is a friend. So in that mind, you make an optional thought. What do you mean by an optional thought? A thought consisting of very few letters, which should represent what you want as a goal and objective. So your objective should be contained in that thought. Express it in the form of a thought. And with that optional thought, you start thinking that thought, formulating, preserving that thought. When you try to revolve that thought, you have entered the mind. And then in the mind, go on revolving it, revolving it, revolving it, revolving it. Initially, you may try to revolve, but distractional thoughts may come. But you persist in that process. And with this thought, which you should continue to revolve as many times as long as you can, throughout the day, every time you are not applying your mind seriously. There are so many moments when we are free also. At that time, this optional thought should occupy you. In that way, if you try, you will find 3 to 4 hours or 5 hours of the day available for the optional thought revolution. When the optional thought gains ground, to that extent, distractional thoughts will subside. And the entire thought process will start becoming friendly to you. If I put it in a proper manner, the density of thought process will be less. They will become lighter, feebler, slower. And then if the optional thought persists and the other thoughts disappear, the optional thought also will disappear. And you go to the source of everything. This is one. Secondly, it may take time for you to understand and practice it. I will give you an intermediate practice. What is that practice? Harvard University said that 17 hours of the day we are wakeful and 7 hours we sleep. So altogether we have 1020 minutes wakeful, out of which 20 minutes at least you should meditate. What is meditation? Meditation truly understood is trying to get into the middle presence. That is why the word meditate comes. Meditate, mediate, mediation, etc. That med word that has come only to indicate the middle presence. Middle presence of what? Middle of two thought processes, middle of two thoughts, external and internal we say. What is the middle between the external and internal? We are wakeful and suddenly we go to sleep. What is the middle of the wakefulness and sleep? What is the middle of the sleep and wakefulness? What is the middle between gross and subtle? So you have to go into that middle of two thought process, middle of two thoughts. So that is the idea of meditation. So do this. Close your eyes. Sit alone in a room. Close the door and windows. Take particularly an asana of your choice and keep it for you. Use it only for that purpose. Make a cover for it. The cover you can wash, the asana you need not wash so frequently. Sit on it, cross-legged. Interlock your fingers, put them on your lap, close your eyes. Now, listen to me very carefully. Our mind is not a trifling. The whole universe is imprinted in the mind, you experience it. So the mind is broader than the universe that you can imagine. Let one portion of the mind start observing the mind processes. Mark my words. Let the mind observe the mind processes. Whatever be the mind process, don't interfere. Let the mind think or pick up emotion, memory, anything. Whatever the mind does, don't interfere. Don't try to stop. Don't follow. Simply observe. There should be nothing in the mind process which goes unobserved by you. Spend the time only in observing the mind process. Observing the mind process. Maximum 15 to 20 minutes. Bas. Get up, wash your face, get to your routines. Start persisting in this practice and let me know after a month. So don't tell me how to do it. Mind is ours. Everything is the mind. I have come and spoken to you. I don't think the tongue spoke to you. After all, ideas are formulated somewhere in the brain, I don't know. They are passed to the vocal system, I don't know. When they come out, I hear as all of you are hearing. Maybe I am the first hearer of my speech. But these things are taking place in a very coordinated, integrated manner. So, when you start trying to enter into the mind process, observe the mind process as a practice in your life, the mind will accept it and cooperate with you. And you will imagine it will be the start of a wonderful new life. That is called real spiritual life. A life in your mind. Mind is a spiritual product. It's not a material or energial product. So this is how you have to go. The rest of it I don't discuss here. People come to me seeking Diksha, etc. I initiate them into that, but I generally don't speak about it in public. Up in the theory level, I speak only up to this level. Please carry on and you will find tremendous difference. You will become a mental professor, not a tongue professor. And then, the sadhana is always meditation maximum for staunch meditators also, they can meditate for 1 hour or 2 hours. What about the rest of the hours of the wakeful days? So there is a sadhana which you have to continue, interactional sadhana I call it. I told you that life is an interaction, sukha dukkha are the resultants, etc. In that sukha dukkha oriented life, there is an interactional sadhana that you have to follow. That interactional sadhana can be throughout your interactions. We don't select our interactions. Whatever your interactions are, this sadhana attitude can be followed there also. And this sukha-dukha sublimation can be always there. It is something like swimming in water. You get into the water and learn swimming. Similarly, you get into the sukha-dukha waters and start learning to swim. I think you can do it in maximum 3 months' time. Okay? Very good. Shall I close the session now? Okay. I will recite a verse and we will have a conclusional Omkara and then stop. Samvedya varjitamanuttamamegamadyam samvidpadam vigalanam kalayan mahatman hridyeva tishtha kalanarahita kriyam tu kurvan akartrapaдаметья samodidashri kurvan akartrapaдаметья samodidashri. All of us together. Hari, Hari. I embrace all of you mentally and I also bless you. May you have enough of stable-mindedness and all of you grow the quality called excellentiality so that your performance without any discrimination or differentiation will become excellent and the society, the country and the world will be enriched by your contribution. Harihi Om Tats Jai Guru.